The only reason why insecurity is today in Nigeria is because it's turned into a business. There's no way non-state actors can be more powerful than the state. One person must be in charge. I was a governor. And you also heard the famous kidnapper Ivan said that he was under it and they ran out of the state. Because at the time, it was difficult in the state when I was governor, and I came here and told the then president, one person must be in charge. Either I'm in charge or these people are in charge.
Every crime has a beneficiary. That is a truth that law enforcement agencies, criminologists, and intelligence analysts understand very well. Behind every sustained criminal enterprise, no matter how chaotic it appears on the surface, there are people who are profiting from it. People who have a financial interest in making sure it never truly ends. People who, when the cameras are rolling and the press conferences are happening and the government is announcing its latest security initiative, are quietly counting their gains from the very violence that everyone else is trying to stop. Nigerians have watched the insecurity crisis in their country worsen year after year, administration after administration, and many have asked the same painful question in the privacy of their own thoughts: why does nothing change? Why, with all the military resources, all the government budgets, all the security summits and task forces and special committees, does the killing continue? Why are school children still being taken from classrooms? Why are farmers still being slaughtered on their own land? Why are communities still paying ransoms to armed groups that operate in the open with a boldness that suggests they have nothing to fear? One man has now stood up and offered an answer to that question that goes deeper than anything the government has been willing to say publicly. He is not a security analyst. He is not a retired military general. He is a presidential candidate, and what he has just revealed about who is truly behind Nigeria's insecurity crisis has sent shockwaves through the political space and deserves the full attention of every Nigerian who has ever lost someone to this violence or lived in fear of it. What exactly did Peter Obi reveal? Who does he say is truly benefiting from Nigeria's insecurity? And what is he promising to do about it if he becomes president? Everything is coming. Stay right here. If you are new here, subscribe right now and turn on your notification bell. Nigeria's insecurity crisis is not new, but under the current administration, it has reached a level that many security experts and ordinary citizens describe as the worst in the country's history outside of the Civil War period. The statistics are devastating. Communities across the northwest, northeast, and north central zones have been living under the threat of banditry, kidnapping, and armed attacks for years. The Northwest alone has seen thousands of civilians killed and hundreds of thousands displaced from their homes and farmlands. The Northeast, despite years of military operations against insurgent groups, continues to experience violence that prevents communities from rebuilding stable lives. And as the Southwest protests we covered recently made clear, the insecurity is no longer contained within the North. It has spread. Oyo State witnessed the kidnapping of school children whose parents are still waiting for their return. Rural communities in Ondo, Ogun, and other southwestern states are encountering the kind of armed violence that was previously considered a geographically distant problem. The government's response to all of this has followed a predictable pattern: press releases, security meetings, presidential condemnations, promises of decisive action, and then silence. Normalization: the movement on to the next news cycle while the affected communities continue to bury their dead and count their losses. Social media influencers, civil society voices, and ordinary Nigerians have cried out repeatedly about specific incidents, including the school children currently still in captivity, only to be met with the deafening quiet of an administration that appears more focused on its re-election campaign than on the safety of its citizens. Into this atmosphere of frustration, grief, and unanswered questions, Peter Obi has stepped forward with a revelation that reframes the entire conversation around Nigerian insecurity. Speaking publicly, Obi made a claim that is as bold as it is troubling. He stated directly that the people behind Nigeria's insecurity are operating it as a business. that the violence, the kidnappings, the ransom demands, and the cycle of armed attacks are not simply the result of poverty, ungoverned spaces, or ideological extremism alone. They are, according to Obi, being sustained and perpetuated by individuals and networks that are financially benefiting from the crisis and who therefore have a direct interest in ensuring that the crisis never reaches a genuine resolution. Let us break down exactly how this business model works, because understanding it is essential to understanding why the problem has proven so impossible to solve under successive administrations. The cycle begins with the kidnapping. Armed groups operating across various regions of Nigeria abduct civilians, farmers, travelers, school children, community leaders, and hold them in captivity. Families of the victims, desperate for the return of their loved ones, are contacted with ransom demands. These demands often run into millions of naira amounts that devastate family finances and, in many cases, require communities to pool resources collectively to meet. The ransom is paid. In many documented cases, it is paid not just by desperate families, but by government officials and intermediaries acting on behalf of the government, a practice that Obi specifically highlighted as one of the most damaging aspects of the current approach to resolving kidnapping incidents. That money does not disappear. It flows back into the criminal enterprise. It is used to purchase more weapons, recruit more members, and fund the next cycle of attacks. Every ransom payment is an investment in the continuation of the violence. Every government official who authorizes or facilitates a ransom payment is, intentionally or not, financing the group that will conduct the next kidnapping. This is the business model, and it has been running with devastating efficiency for years. But Obi's revelation goes further than simply describing how the ransom cycle works. His claim that people are deliberately profiting from insecurity points to something even more disturbing: the possibility that some of the individuals with the power to end the crisis are among those who benefit most from its continuation. This is why, Obi argues, the conventional government approach to insecurity, more troops, more checkpoints, more summits, has consistently failed to produce lasting results. You cannot defeat an enemy that includes people within your own system. You cannot win a war when some of the people responsible for fighting it are financially connected to those you are supposed to be fighting against. The evidence supporting this characterization is not difficult to find. Under the current administration, armed bandits have been filmed operating openly in public spaces, negotiating, moving freely, displaying weapons without facing any meaningful consequence. Government officials have been documented facilitating payments to non-state armed groups under the language of peace negotiations. Security budgets have grown significantly, while security outcomes have deteriorated. The money is going somewhere. The results are not showing up where they are supposed to. Obi's vow, if he becomes president, is to dismantle this system from the top, to conduct a thorough and unsparing investigation into the financial networks sustaining the insecurity crisis, to end the practice of government ransom payments that feed the cycle, to hold accountable, regardless of their position or their political connections, every individual found to be profiting from the blood of Nigerian citizens. It is a promise that sounds straightforward, but anyone who understands the depth of the interests involved knows that it is among the most dangerous commitments a Nigerian presidential candidate can make. The people benefiting from insecurity are not powerless individuals. They are connected, they have resources, and they will not welcome the prospect of a president committed to following the money trail wherever it leads. The fact that Obi is making this promise publicly, in the full knowledge of who it threatens, says something important about the kind of leadership he is presenting to Nigerian voters. For ordinary Nigerians living in the communities most devastated by insecurity, Obi's revelation resonates deeply, not because it tells them something they did not already suspect, but because it is the first time a candidate seeking the highest office in the land has said publicly and on record what many of them have believed privately for years: that their suffering is not just a governance failure. It is, in part, a deliberate product of systems that benefit powerful people. Hearing that acknowledgement from a serious presidential candidate, combined with a specific vow to address it, creates something that the current administration has completely failed to offer these communities: a credible reason to believe. A word, as they say, is enough for the wise. And Nigeria has heard enough words. It is time for action. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, stay safe. See you in the next video.